United States of America is suing Apple, claiming that they got a monopoly. Let's get into it. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. We got to get to the money, y'all. Let's get to it.
Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Laura Garcia.
And I'm Marcus Washington. Well, this is causing shockwaves through Silicon Valley right now. Our business and tech reporter, Scott Budman, in the newsroom for us this midday. Okay, so Scott, what could this mean for all of us?
Well, the lawsuit is especially interesting, Marcus, because it doesn't really say that if you're an iPhone user, you have it better than other people, say Android phone users. What it says is that Apple, by essentially stifling outside competition, is giving iPhone users an inferior experience. One thing we know for sure this morning, the lawsuit is from the jump hitting Apple investors hard. Apple shares have fallen by more than 4% since the lawsuit was made public this morning.
We're going to address this in our next stock club. So if you're a part of the Patreon and Apple is a part of my portfolio, we are addressing this in the next stock club. All right. If you're part of the Patreon and the Bag Chasers, make sure y'all tune into that live stream. I'm going to be listening when we doing our next stock club very, very soon inside of the Bag Chasers, y'all.
That's a loss on paper of more than $100 billion in stock market value. We also know the Justice Department is going deep with this suit, saying Apple's phone monopoly affects everything from the watch you buy, the apps you download, your text messaging, and the advertising you see. So how deep could this go? Well, the DOJ says, and I quote here, structural relief could happen if the U.S. wins this case. That's code for possibly breaking up part of the company.
So let me actually go over to the announcement from the Justice Department. I wanted to give you all a quick synopsis and scenario before I actually give you my opinion on this. But let me go over to the Justice Department of what they said with regard to this whole Apple monopoly and this lawsuit that's against this large company.
Attorney General Merrick Garland, he's going to be laying out this case against Apple. Let's go to that live.
Good morning. Earlier today, the Department of Justice, joined by 15 states and the District of Columbia, sued Apple in the U.S. District Court for the District of New Jersey for violating Section 2 of the Sherman Antitrust Act. Over the last 2 decades, Apple has become one of the most valuable public companies in the world. Today, its net income exceeds the individual gross domestic product of more than 100 countries. That is in large part due to the success of the iPhone, Apple's signature smartphone product. For over a decade, iPhone sales have made up a majority of Apple's annual revenue. Today, Apple's share of the U.S. performance smartphone market exceeds 70%, and its share of the entire U.S. smartphone market exceeds 65%.
Sounds like a great company to invest in. Sounds like a phenomenal company to invest in. Let's continue. It is. It's all about money. I'm going to give my opinion in a minute. I want to continue to hear this.
Apple charges as much as nearly $1,600 for an iPhone. But as our complaint alleges, Apple has maintained monopoly power in the smartphone market not simply by staying ahead of the competition on the merits.
You do realize that Apple literally invented the latest, the current version of the smartphone market. Microsoft and BlackBerry was largely the first entrants. Apple reinvented it when Steve Jobs came out with the first iPhone. And then everybody was copycats after it. But come on, let's continue.
But by violating federal antitrust law. Consumers should not have to pay higher prices because companies break the law. We allege that Apple has employed a strategy that relies on exclusionary, anti-competitive conduct that hurts both consumers and developers. For consumers, that has meant fewer choices, higher prices and fees, lower quality smartphones, apps, and accessories, and less innovation from Apple and its competitors. For developers, that has meant being forced to play by rules that...
Look at somebody. Dave E says, no, Apple didn't, BlackBerry did. Did you hear what I just said? You didn't hear what I just said? Okay, let me slow it down for my D students, because I'm a C student. I like to break it down from a C student's perspective. Microsoft and BlackBerry were the ones that really capitalized off of and popularized the smartphone market. Apple, in its latest iteration of it, as far as the touch screens and what iPhone did, was basically reinvented. And so the version that you see today and what everybody is benefiting off of is based off of what Steve Jobs did when he then reinvented what the smartphone really was. Okay? All right? Even Palm. I agree. Palm was too. Palm was one of the early Palm Pilots and all of that. They were one of the early inventors of what a smartphone was. Our current iteration of what a smartphone is largely based off of what Steve Jobs created when he came out with the first iPhone. All right? Let's continue.
Insulate Apple from competition. And as outlined in our complaint, we allege that Apple has consolidated its monopoly power, not by making its own products better, but by making other products worse. Apple carries out its exclusionary anti-competitive conduct in two principal ways. First, Apple imposes contractual restrictions and fees that limit the features and functionality that developers can offer iPhone users. Second, Apple selectively restricts access to the points of connection between third-party apps and the iPhone's operating system.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't I? If you're using my system on my platform and my ecosystem in order to download the app and be able to power it on the phone that you bought from us, and you're actually using it, why would I let you then be able to sidestep the way in which we make money in order to be able to have third-party apps make money on top of it? Okay, so you can have your app, you can use my ecosystem, you can tap into my audience, but then at the same time, you can step outside of the payment services in order to generate revenue. That's like letting somebody stay at my house and then plug up their car to my crib without having them pay for some of the fees of the electricity. Why would I let somebody do that? Why would I have outlets on my house and then let somebody else come in, right? And then let them plug up to my crib and then charge their car for free? Why would I buy a business and then let you use my parking lot for free? The parking lot is for customers. Jesus Christ.
Degrading the functionality of non-Apple apps and accessories. As a result, for most of the past 15 years, Apple has collected a tax in the form of a 30% commission on the price of any app.
Somebody said it's definitely a monopoly. We can't even name more than 3 phone brands. Well, that's because they didn't invest in it. They didn't compete. You got to compete. It's a whole bunch of phone brands. It's 1,000 phone brands. You got to compete. This is crazy. This is crazy. I don't believe that it's a monopoly. I do not. There is literally hundreds of phone brands. Hundreds of phone brands.
Downloaded from the App Store, as well as on in-app purchases. Apple is able to command these fees from companies of all sizes. Apple has also suppressed the emergence of programs like cloud streaming apps, including gaming apps, as well as super apps that could reduce user dependence on Apple's own operating system and expensive hardware. And as any iPhone user who has ever seen a green text message or received a tiny, grainy video can attest, Apple's anti-competitive conduct also includes making it more difficult for iPhone users to message with users of non-Apple products.
Wait. Did this guy just say anybody that's ever received a green message on an iPhone? Okay. So for all of my Android users, let me bring y'all up to speed of what's happening. So when you message with another iPhone user on an iPhone, right? When you use iMessage, it shows up as blue. If somebody is not on iMessage and then it just goes as a regular text message, then it shows up as green. Did he literally just say, hold on, let me rewind this. Give me a second. Let me just rewind this. Hold on.
Apple's anti-competitive conduct also includes making it more difficult for iPhone users to message with users of non-Apple products. students of programs of all sizes. Apple has also suppressed the emergence of programs like cloud streaming apps, including gaming apps, as well as super apps that could reduce user dependence on Apple's own operating system and expensive hardware. And as any iPhone user who has ever seen a green text message or received a tiny, grainy video can attest, Apple's anti-competitive conduct also includes making it more difficult for iPhone users to message with users of non-Apple products.
Oh, man, this is crazy, yo.
It does this by diminishing the functionality of its own messaging app and by diminishing the functionality of third-party messaging apps. By doing so, Apple knowingly and deliberately degrades quality, privacy, and security for its users. For example, if an iPhone user messages a non-iPhone user in Apple Messages, the text appears not only as a green bubble, but incorporates limited functionality. The conversation is not encrypted, videos are pixelated and grainy, and users cannot edit messages or see typing indicators.
So guess what you can do? Because iMessage is literally an application, okay? Guess what you can use? WhatsApp, Signal. There's a ton of different ways in which you can communicate on an iPhone. We send videos for my job and we leverage Signal. We use Signal.
As a result, iPhone users perceive rival smartphones as being lower quality because the
iPhone users perceive other smartphone users as lower quality. This is what he's saying. This is a prepared statement. He's saying, as a result of this, iPhone users perceive other smartphones as lower quality. Come on, man. Come on, Justice Department. Come on. U.S. Justice Department. Is this what we spending our time and our money on? Is this what we... Come on, y'all. Hold on. Listen to what he's saying.
and users cannot edit messages or see typing indicators. As a result, iPhone
Somebody said, Anton, why Signal? Because we use it internationally and we have developers that's offshore as well as onshore. And so we all just communicate with Signal because it's a safer way for us to communicate and everybody can get it.
users perceive rival smartphones as being lower quality because the experience of messaging friends and family who do not own iPhones is worse, even though Apple is the one responsible for breaking cross-platform messaging. And it does so intentionally. For example, in 2013, a senior executive at Apple explained that supporting cross-platform messaging in Apple Messages, quote, would simply serve to remove an obstacle to iPhone families giving their kids Android phones, close quote. In 2022, Apple's CEO was asked whether Apple would fix iPhone to Android messaging. The questioner added, quote, not to make it personal, but I can't send my mom certain videos, close quote. Apple's CEO responded, buy your mom an iPhone.
Facts. Because let me tell you something. It's not about just the messaging. It's about the cloud infrastructure. It's about AirDrop. Let me tell you something. It is the S-H-I, shh. When I go out and I record my videos, yo, what's going on? Is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. Thank you for continuing to rock out with the Millionaire Morning Show. I'm Tom Dog, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You know what's happening out in these streets. And then I get done recording, and then I just airdrop it right over to my computer so that I can start editing real quick. That junk slap. It slap. It slap. Real talk. The chips, crazy, sick. Honestly, for me, it's the user experience. It has nothing to do with all of that extra stuff. It's the user experience. It's the user experience.
In addition,
and here's the thing. I don't trip. Here, I see people in the chat, for example, and they say, well, you know, Android is better. Okay, I'm cool with that. And that means it's not a monopoly, right? Some people are saying Android is better than the iPhone. Okay, that's the whole idea. If it makes more sense for you based off of what you're doing for your lifestyle, cool. No? Some people like Android, some people like iPhones. Based off of what I do and the way that I am able to airdrop, edit, upload, download, all of this other type of stuff, you know, how I use the platform and how it integrates, I'm cool. I like it. It's easy. When I'm kicking it with somebody and they just airdrop a video or do this, whatever, me being able to use Apple Pay and all of that, it works for me. And so if y'all saying, well, you know, Android is an open platform, then why y'all don't just buy Androids? If you like Androids, then rock with Androids. What's the problem? If it's awesome, listen, I don't see anybody on Apple with an Apple iPhone say, man, I wish Android would open up their platform. Nobody, it's only one way. It's only one way. Nobody is sitting here on the Apple side saying, man, I wish Android would get their stuff together or whatever. Nobody is complaining. Nobody complains that has an iPhone and says, man, because Android ain't doing it right. They don't trip. They just be like, man, I like my iPhone and I'm cool with it. Nobody is tripping. So if you're using an Android successfully, then why do you care what other people that got iPhones is doing? If you're happy with your device and you like it to be open sourced and you could do more with it and you can customize it, then why do you give a F what they doing over there? It's too restrictive. Okay, well, nobody is forcing you to only get an iPhone. What's the problem? Not only can you get an Android, you can get all types of Androids. You can get a Samsung, you can get an HTC, you can get all of these different types of Android. What is the problem? I understand it. I'm listening to the chat. I'm a chat boy. I like to chat back and forth with the people because that's what makes the show awesome. I'm trying to understand, why are people so bothered by what Apple is doing if they're so happy with the device that they're using?
Controlling app distribution and creation. We allege that Apple is violating the law by conditionally restricting developers' access to the interface, which is needed to make an app functional on the Apple operating system. For a product like a smartwatch or a digital wallet to be useful to an iPhone user, it must be able to communicate with the iPhone's operating system.
Correct.
But Apple creates barriers that make it extremely difficult and expensive for both users and developers to venture outside the Apple ecosystem. When it comes to smartwatches, Apple not only drives users to purchase an Apple Watch, which is only compatible with an iPhone, it also uses its technical and contractual controls to make it harder for someone with an iPhone to use a non-Apple smartwatch. And when it comes to digital wallets, Apple's exclusionary conduct goes a step further. Digital wallets allow users to store and use passes and credentials in a single app, including credit cards, personal identification, movie tickets, and car keys.
Correct.
Apple Wallet is Apple's proprietary digital wallet on the iPhone.
Correct.
Apple actively encourages banks, merchants, and other parties to participate in Apple Wallet, but it
they don't have to.
simultaneously exerts its monopoly power to block these same partners from developing alternative payment products and services for iPhone users.
What?
For example, Apple has blocked third-party developers from creating competing digital wallets on the iPhone that use what is known as tap-to-pay.
So why would I allow for you to create a competitor on my device? If you want to create it for another device or you want to create it for something else, then cool. But why would I let you take money out of my pocket? Why would I let you come into my home? Anyways, I don't know, man. Listen, how I feel about it, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I can give my opinion on this and we can go back and forth about the Apple ecosystem, and that has this is different. This is completely different. We can have our opinion when it comes to politics. We can have our opinions when it comes to migrants. We can have our opinions about any of that. When it comes to this type of thing, though, this is different because I don't care about whose opinion is what. We doing this out of fun at this point. I care about whether or not the Justice Department is going to wind up breaking up certain parts of the business and how that's going to affect the stock price. So I brought this to y'all attention to let y'all know that I'm going to be doing a little bit more research as to what could or what couldn't happen, what would be the benefits, the pros and the cons if they win versus them losing, what's the possibility of them winning and losing. So I'm going to do a lot more research for the bag chasers because I think that I need to do an exclusive just for this particular stock and how this is going to play, how long it's going to play out, exactly what the options are, how it would affect the stock price. So the only thing we care about is the money at this point, right? We don't care, like the opinions, that's just all fun and games. The thing that we're trying to understand is how does it affect the stock price to shareholders and your portfolio and my portfolio? Because I do have this as a significant portion of my portfolio, as you guys already know, all right? So we're going to do some deep diving. I just wanted to give y'all some updates on the news as to what's going on. Doesn't matter if you're an Android user. Doesn't matter if you're an Apple user. I believe it comes back down to the money, and I'm trying to understand exactly what the Justice Department is trying to get out of this. So I'll be doing a deeper dive and a little bit more research, and then we'll be having this conversation inside of the Patreon